All right, first video. Oddly, I feel nervous and yet there's nobody here. So, all right, a little bit about me. My name is Ania and I am a registered interior designer, and I'm going to tell you what that is and then tips and tricks in the design business, things that HGTV doesn't always tell you. So interior design, let's start with the basics. Most people have no idea what the difference is between interior design and interior decorating. They're similar, and I think I'd be doing disservice to say that they're completely different. The history of interior design really does actually start from interior decorating. I would say the easiest way for somebody to understand the difference between the two is to think architecture, interior decorating, and interior design is right in the middle. Why is it important to understand the difference? I think the big reason is that on TV we see all these really talented people doing all these really beautiful designs, but they're calling themselves designers, and that's really tough for us in the business because picking paint colors and pretty things, although that's awesome, and pulling a space together is a whole industry on its own. It's hard because people just don't understand that it's not the same thing. We actually have to go to school, we have to get a degree, we have to write exams to actually become a registered interior designer. What is a registered interior designer? A registered interior designer is somebody who has finished and qualified their NCIDQ exam. So National Council of Interior Design Qualifications. I stumble over that one every single time. All right, so that is required to actually become a full-fledged interior designer. Do you need your NCIDQ to be an interior designer? No, you actually don't. In where I live, you don't need it to work in our business. That being said, it is in some states actually required. I live in Canada, so it's not required, but it's strongly recommended. It will probably get to the point where it's required. There is a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes in the government. So with legislation and Titles Act, Practicing Act. So there's a lot to it. And I think what people really just need to understand about the two is there is a really technical aspect to interior design. So in interior design, we spend a lot of time actually doing space plans on AutoCAD and using the building code to actually know what the code allows. So what's our occupancy? What's our path of egress? What are the fire restrictions within that space? Do we need a 1-hour fire rating, a 2-hour fire rating? Are we dealing with a tenant situation where, there needs to be a separation between one tenant and another tenant, and what does that look like? We focus on making space extremely functional, and it's not just the final beautiful space, which it absolutely should be when it's done if you're good, but it's a lot more that you don't see on those shows. There's a lot more technical stuff, and I'm hoping through this channel that I'm actually able to share with you guys what that looks like and what real interior designers do, because I think it's not always as glamorous as people think it is, but I also want to show the fun side of it. And I'm going to definitely get into the interior decorating side of it because honestly, that's what most people want to see anyways. So we're going to talk about the real stuff, the TV stuff, the pretty stuff, and hopefully you guys will learn something you didn't know. And if I can help out, that's great. All right. So one thing I did want to share with you, just because, Google. So interior design versus interior decorating. So I actually use this qpractice.com. If you're writing your NCIDQ, you should use them. It was fantastic. I really struggled with it until I went on there. So not a plug, I didn't get sponsored. This is my first video. That being said though, qpractice.com, a lifesaver when it comes to getting ready to write that exam. Okay, so what they put on their website. Interior design is the art and science of understanding people's behavior to create functional spaces within a building. Decoration is furnishing or adorning of a space with fashionable or beautiful things. In short, interior designers may decorate, but decorators do not design. I think it sums it up really well. Basically, there is a difference. And then, architects, we're not architects. So just FYI, we cannot do full builds structure. So the level of training that is required to be an architect far exceeds that of an interior designer. That being said, an interior decorator, well, you don't need to go to school to be an interior decorator. If you do, it's like a 2-year certificate program, I think, maybe 1 year, maybe 2 years. With interior design, you actually, in where I'm from, I'm in Canada, and in Ontario, we have only degree programs. So you do a degree, and then you do a certain amount of hours, and then you can write 3 exams to become a registered interior designer. And the only way you can call yourself, where I live, an interior designer is actually to have written those exams. Otherwise, you can use the term designer, but you should not be using, like, not falsely showing that or saying that you are an interior designer if you don't have those qualifications. An architect, so they do their undergrad, then they do their graduate and their master's, and then they have to work for way longer than we have to work to gain their hours. They're probably like, it's like a doctor. Like, an architect really is probably about the same time frame as a doctor. I would honestly say that architects are so underappreciated for the amount of education that they have and the amount of specialize in that field that they have, because you tend to find that, like, a doctor, you're like, okay, they have a PhD, they're a doctor, they're amazing, they're life-saving, they're life-changing, but people don't give a lot of credit to architects, I find. They're always kind of nickel and diming them and trying to, get it for less, I guess. I find that they're always struggling to show how much goes into becoming an architect. There's a lot of knowledge there. And also, that being said, I find a lot of interior designers that I know personally, just some of them are almost more on the architecture side because they have that knowledge and understanding, and then some wish they had that knowledge and understanding, but they don't. So you really shouldn't be saying you're kind of like an architect, because we're not. And we know our stuff, and we're pretty good in the sense of we can do interior spaces and we understand a lot of technical stuff, but we're no architects, and that's okay. I didn't want to be an architect. That was way too much schooling. I would have, like, maybe just become an architect now. And to give you background, which I probably should do actually. So I've been an interior designer for 10 years. Oh my gosh, 11 years. 11 years, oh my gosh. Only registered for 2, but I've been in the business for 11 years. I've done mostly commercial. So my background is commercial design, focusing on institutional. I've done cafes, I've done restaurants, I've done retail, mostly offices. That's like my bread and butter, I guess you could say. So I do most of my work in the office sector, corporate sector. I've done some fun things. What else have I done? Lounge space, lots of student space, because I do work in institutional. So any type of student space you can pretty much think of, I've done. What else have I done? Oh my goodness. I've done a hair salon. I've done a garage, but I had to work with an architect on that. I've been in the business for a while. I can't remember everything I've done, but I've done a lot of different things. I'll have to write it down. I have it somewhere. I also did work in residential for a little bit of time, not long. I did probably, I don't even know if it was a full year. I really enjoyed some of the fun things with residential. For me personally, I didn't see my career really going that route. I don't know. I'm really good at space planning, and I really enjoy space planning. So I kind of found in residential, it's more like renovating a kitchen or renovating a bathroom, and it didn't get me the same way. But I have friends who, oh my gosh, they do the most beautiful kitchen renos ever, and I probably will hire my girlfriend to do mine, because as much as I love doing it, sometimes when you see your own space over and over and over again, you kind of forget what the heck you want. So that, in a nutshell, is what I'm all about. I really love what I do. It's become, I think it's just who I am at this point. I've always been a creative person. I surprisingly was an insurance broker before this, which that's probably an entire show that I could just tell you about, because it's kind of crazy that I just didn't know what I wanted to do when I was younger. So anyways, figured out my stuff and went back to school, did all my education, And I graduated in the heart of the last recession, which it looks like we're probably going to be in another one now. Meh, that sucks. Anyways, let's not focus on the crappy stuff that's happening right now. So I did graduate in the heart of the recession, and I had to claw my way into the business because there was not a lot of work. So basically, I took everything. I actually worked for free at some points because you got to do what you got to do when you have a dream, right? So I'm really fortunate now. I have a really good job that been there for 8 years. So I'm very hopeful that with everything going on in the world right now that nothing changes. That being said, I'm excited to share with you my knowledge. And like I said, I've been in the business for a while. And if you guys actually want to check me out online, I have some blogs, which I'm going to talk about in some of these episodes. idhub.ca. Interior Design Hub is my personal business, not my full-time job. Kind of weird, but so I do design on the side and I do design full-time. I do a lot of design. And I definitely want to get into the NCIDQ, and that's specifically for other designers. And the reason why I want to talk about that is because I struggled. Like, the struggle was real. It was a really hard exam for me, which I know what I'm doing in design and I'm really good at what I do in design, but honestly, it was like so hard. So I'm going to go over all that with you guys too. I also put a couple feelers out there on social media, just trying to find out what things people wanted to know about design. So I'm going to go through those in future episodes and just going to go from there. And you might see me wearing this exact same outfit several times because I'm going to film 3 of them because my little tiny baby isn't here to make lots of noise. So anyways, that was fun. I'm learning. This is all new. So I hope you liked it. All right. Take care. Bye.